What's up, YouTube? I am in the Philippines and I'm not feeling well. Somebody beside me ain't feeling well either. She told me she ain't feeling well. Why? So now she come over so they can see. Oh my goodness. She want to sleep with the AC on. So now we both sick. But anyway, check this out, man. This is Law and Crime Network. P. Diddy and music industry predator slammed by John Legend manager admits S trafficking case. You gotta say S there. You can't say that word. Anyway, give him a thumbs up. The thing I love about the Philippines and all this greatness, they don't know nothing about P. Diddy and the baby oil. They don't know nothing about it. Who is P. Diddy? You know who P. Diddy is? No. She's so nice and sweet. But when we off camera, she great beat me up already. Y'all hit that subscribe button, man. Hit that bell. Hey, let's check this bad boy out. Here we go, y'all. You want to stay for the whole thing, or you can leave if you want, or you can stay.
I can leave if I want because I'm doing something.
Oh, she said she's doing something. Okay, here we go, y'all.
Well-known and well-established producer in the entertainment world says she went to a P. Diddy party and a very scary thing happened. And her new op-ed in the New York Times slams the music industry's predatory culture. We've got all the details on what she had to say as new charges could be on the horizon for the disgraced rapper. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Right now as we speak, a rapper who once held legendary status worldwide is sitting in a jail cell out in Brooklyn. I'm talking, of course, about Sean Diddy Combs. And there's so many things that are happening right now. His attorneys are busy trying to file legal arguments to get him out of that cell, get him bail, get him pretrial release. They're also trying to keep people who are connected to these sex crimes allegations from talking about it. We actually focused a lot about that on different sidebars. Meanwhile, you have Texas Attorney Tony Busby. He's also hard at work, filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit against Sean Combs, accusing him of using his power and influence to sexually abuse both women and men, as well as allegedly some children.
Facts.
Essentially, the claim is this has been going on for decades. Now, as Combs faces sex trafficking and racketeering criminal charges in federal court, the public perception of the rapper has certainly changed, right? For many, he went from being a 90s music icon who gave money to charities. He was awarded the key to New York City. He was the life of the party. Everybody liked him. But that transformed because now we look at him as an accused sexual predator. And we all saw with our very own eyes that 2016 videotape that was published by CNN just a few months ago, where he is beating up his girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, inside of a hotel hallway out in Los Angeles. And Combs, he released an Instagram video essentially acknowledging that it was him in that security video, apologized, but the feelings of many, they really have shifted. He is not the Sean Combs that we knew from years ago. Now, prosecutors allege that Combs, he used his enormous wealth as well as his influence and his power over his employees and others to organize what were apparently called freak-offs, or FOs, these long orchestrated sex performances that allegedly involved hiring commercial sex workers, keeping everyone involved in the orgies drugged, videotaping these events. And Combs has strongly denied these allegations. He's denied the charges. His attorney says he plans to fight them in court, possibly by taking the stand in his own defense. We'll see what that looks like, although, of course, no cameras in that federal courtroom. Unfortunately, I could talk about how I'm frustrated with that, but that's for a different day. And we know that his trial is scheduled right now to start in May, but we received information this week that a grand jury has been convened to hear new evidence, including testimony apparently from a male witness, which we know that could lead to a superseding indictment, new charges, amended charges against Combs. If that happens, I have to imagine the trial date gets pushed back. More discovery, more defenses, more witnesses. A lot more will happen. I don't think it would happen. This trial would happen in May. By the way, what do I talk about like all the time on Sidebar?
Hey guys, Uncle Mike here with big news. YouTube has changed my life, and now it's your turn. See, Uncle Mike was tired of being broke after every payday. So I decided to do something about it. So I invested over about $9,000 in YouTube courses and online coaching. Man, I was determined to change. But guess what? None of these systems gave me the one-on-one coaching that I needed. So I created my own YouTube course with the help that you need to make sure that you succeed. If you're ready to learn and you're not afraid to put in the work, you too can make a real change. Sign up now and Uncle Mike will send you the 4 videos that got me started. 100% free. Click the word more below and look for our YouTube growth system. That's our course. Now, let's get back to this video.
Let's talk about how celebrities are coming out. You have these celebrities who are coming out to denounce Combs' alleged actions, and they're recounting their own stories of his wild parties and their own encounters with Sean Combs. And that includes who we want to talk about right now. Emmy Award-winning producer Ty Sticklorius, founder of the music management company Friend at Work. In fact, the reason you might know her is one of her most famous clients is John Legend. Now, Sticklorius wrote an op-ed piece that was published in the New York Times on Thursday, and it was entitled, "The Music Industry is Toxic. After P. Diddy, we can clean it up." And she recounts one of her own encounters with Sean Combs, or maybe I should say at a Sean Combs event, because she wrote in the essay about attending one of Combs' New Year's Eve parties on a yacht in St. Bart's 27 years ago when she was in her early 20s. And she says that during that party, a man she didn't know who seemed to be an associate of Sean Combs brought her to a bedroom aboard the yacht and then locked the door behind them. She wrote, "To this day, I can't remember how I managed to talk my way out of that terrifying situation. Perhaps my nervous babbling, my brother's on this boat and he's probably looking for me, convinced him to unlock the bedroom door and let me go." She went on to say that she didn't know if the man had any real connection to Sean Combs, and she kind of chalked it up to what she called an anomaly. Maybe he was just a drunk guy at a party who tried to take things a little too far. But now, she says, looking back on her experience after everything has come out, or all these allegations have come out against Sean Combs, she looks at it differently, writing, "It was an indicator of a pervasive culture in the music industry that actively fostered sexual misconduct and exploited the lives and bodies of those hoping to make it in the business. This toxic situation has been allowed to fester because power has been concentrated in the hands of kingmakers, wealthy, entitled, nearly always male gatekeepers who control nearly every door that leads to success and who can, without consequence, use their power to abuse young women and young men. Too often, women have not been safe in recording studios, on tour buses, in green rooms, or in offices. It's not a bug of the music business, it's a major feature." And it's interesting that Sticklorius says that her scary experience happened on a yacht, because what do we know? Combs' son, Christian, is facing his own sexual assault allegations that allegedly happened on a yacht. In April, a woman named Grace O'Markey filed a lawsuit against him. And according to this complaint, O'Markey, who says she was 25 years old at the time, says that she was working as a steward on the yacht that Sean Combs had chartered. And she believes that the alcohol on that yacht had been laced with drugs, because she says that women would have one drink and then almost immediately they would pass out or start falling over. And she said that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore but would come onto the yachts in the evenings to party. And one night in December of 2022, she says Christian reportedly arrives very intoxicated and pressured her to take shots of tequila. She says she did, and Christian allegedly tried to get her to drink more in this yacht's makeshift recording studio. She says that Christian kissed her neck, her face, he groped her legs, breasts, private areas. And O'Markey says that she tried to go back to work, but Christian found her again, wanted her to find him a place to sleep for the night. So she took him to the cinema room of the yacht. And that's when she claims Christian stopped her from leaving, groped her again, took off all of his clothes, and tried to force her to perform oral sex on him. Now, O'Markey's civil lawsuit accuses Christian of assault, battery, sexual assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress. But Sean Combs is also named as a defendant. She is suing him under a aiding and abetting theory, as well as having premises liability, because he was the leaseholder of the yacht. It was his property in a way. Premises liability means that you have a duty to keep people on your property safe from injuries. And we recently told you about allegations made against rapper Chris Brown in an explosive new documentary called Chris Brown, A History of Violence, where a woman who is identified only as Jane Doe accused Brown of drugging and raping her at a party on a yacht that was docked outside of Combs' mansion in Miami in 2020.
Man, dude, it's a whole lot of arguing going on behind the doors of the music industry. And Hollywood.
Jane Doe doesn't accuse Combs, though, of any misbehavior, saying she just met him briefly. She even said he was really nice. But again, this could establish what is being perceived as a pattern of behavior or actions. And to be clear, Brown's legal team says that the rape allegation and the others made in the documentary are malicious and false. But going back to Sticklorious, she says her experiences with all these dubious characters connected to the music business didn't end at that yacht party. Quote, my early experiences with predators and those that enabled them nearly led me to give up on the music business. A few years after the boat incident, while pursuing my MBA at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, I attended a dinner where a senior music executive slipped his card to me under the table, an unsubtle invitation to his hotel room. I declined. I only persisted in the industry because in 2005, an old college friend who was starting to find success as an artist reached out to me. That artist was John Legend. And 20 years later, I am still his manager and partner in multiple business ventures. Turns out that many artists, including John, want to be part of a different model of business and culture. So with that, I want to bring in trial attorney Parker Steiner, who specializes in
Shout out to John Legend. Okay, shout out to you, brother.
In sexual abuse and assault cases. Parker, so good to have you back here to talk about this. What do you make of that op-ed?
So it's a very powerful op-ed, and it's exposing a culture. She uses the term gatekeeper. These unbelievably powerful individuals within this industry that apply predator behaviors towards women, young artists, and essentially say, for you to get through these gates, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And oftentimes that involves sexual behavior, the way they dress, the way they act, really essentially controlling these young women. And her op-ed is extremely powerful. Now, she doesn't make any direct allegations against Mr. Combs. However, she is really the tip of the iceberg with exposing an industry. And up until this point, we've had complaints that have included Jane Does. These are individuals for a number of reasons for survivors of abuse, why they want to go under an alias, protect their identity. They have a lot of fear. We're seeing that same similar allegation in these complaints that these Jane Does live with constant fear, whether it was direct threats that they allege in their complaints or otherwise. But this op-ed, although again, not directly against Mr. Combs, is a name. And it's not just any name. This is an Emmy award-winning individual coming forward who's still in the industry, has been in the industry at the highest level, and that's associated with one of the largest artists in the world, that's coming forward and sharing her own individual experience, but also saying this is a culture that's been toxic for 20 years and is still toxic today.
That's crazy.
And without naming names, one of the questions I keep getting asked is, this is, like you said, it's the tip of the iceberg. If this was the pattern in the music industry, who else is going to be caught up on charges? Who else is going to be implicated in this, right? Because first, for Sean Combs, he's charged with racketeering conspiracy. If this really was going on for a long time, it's not doing it by himself. Who else knew about it? Who else participated? But if this was a symptom, maybe not to the degree of freak-off sessions, but if this was a symptom of the music industry, and you're seeing high-profile people like Sean Combs being arrested and charged with federal crimes, being hit with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, do you wonder if another high-profile music industry executive or artist or somebody else connected to the industry might be next?
I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if it'll amount to the criminal charges and prosecution that's taking place with Mr. Combs, but we're already seeing the trickle-down effect. We're seeing Chris Brown named in a lawsuit for allegations stemming from a Diddy party. And I would not be surprised if we see continued civil lawsuits against individuals in that industry. What takes place is when you have one brave survivor that comes forward, one Jane Doe, that comes forward and files a lawsuit saying what took place to me was wrong, and I will no longer be silenced. It empowers other survivors to come forward. And that's what you've seen with the more than 100 civil lawsuits against Mr. Combs, as well as this op-ed. It's the Me Too movement from 2015.
It's interesting. First of all, I'll tell you that the Jane Doe who sued Chris Brown, that case actually fell apart. It was dismissed. And that was filed, I think, before even any of the allegations against Sean Combs. But obviously it's being amplified again. This documentary came out just recently. And look, I did a sidebar recently where the government came out with a filing, and they said they began investigating Sean Combs in November of 2023. So right when Cassandra Ventura and other people started filing these lawsuits, that shows you the power of investigative journalism and documentaries and lawsuits that sometimes can fuel a criminal investigation. I think one of the things that Stiglorius talked about that I think really was interesting is she just chalked it up as it's an anomaly. It's a drunk guy at a party. This probably happens all the time. But when you look back on it, given the allegations, you look at it with a different lens. And that makes me wonder, not only somebody of her stature coming out, but other people might say, yeah, I had a weird experience too. I didn't think of it. Now I'm looking at it a little bit differently. What do you make of that?
So her single event, her single experience, she chalked it up. This could have been a drunk person at a party. I don't know if that person was associated with Mr. Combs or not. But then you hear more and more stories, and really a culture that would take place at parties or with individuals surrounding Mr. Combs. And it starts to make you question, was this just a single event, a drunk guy at a party, like she unfortunately had experienced at other times in her life? Or was this a culture that was tolerated, enabled, or promoted by Mr. Combs? And I think it builds on the allegations that have been made already against him.
Let me ask you this. I get asked this a lot. Combs is obviously defending himself in these civil suits. He's going to defend himself in the criminal case. He's already doing it. Some people say, why doesn't he just turn around and file defamation lawsuit against defamation lawsuit against defamation lawsuit? You're lying about me. You're lying about me. You're lying about me. Clearly, he wouldn't have a hard time proving the harm element because his whole career and reputation was significantly damaged. He was arrested. He obviously can't file a defamation action against the government for what they did. But the accusers, including anybody who says anything about him, why doesn't he just do that?
So he certainly could. He could file in response his answer to the complaint to these civil lawsuits, a defamation lawsuit. But the reality is he still has to prove the elements. And you're right. The brand damage that has taken place, if there is in fact defamation, is horrific. But up until this point, there are allegations that have been made. Allegations included in civil lawsuits. And if he answered the complaints with a defamation suit or filed his own, he would still have to go through the burden of proving his case. He'd still have to stand before a jury in a civil case and walk through these allegations, these events that took place, and have to defend himself. So really, it doesn't do him much justice by filing those. He's publicly made the statement denying these allegations. But as far as any civil recovery that he'd be able to achieve through defamation, I don't think it's extremely likely at this point. And it doesn't slow down the train.
Right. You mentioned before that you have somebody like Ty Stiglorius who has come out publicly and said what almost happened to her and her experiences. But then you have Jane Does who have been filing lawsuit after lawsuit, and they have remained anonymous. I'm actually doing another sidebar where a federal judge has said one of the Jane Does who has filed a civil lawsuit against Sean Combs in federal court, she can no longer remain anonymous, that she hasn't presented enough evidence about why, that the harm that she would suffer, the danger, that public embarrassment is not enough, that Sean Combs has a right to confront his accuser, he has a right to investigate who this person is, he has a right to, in terms of look at her credibility, and that she was the one who filed the lawsuit, and she was the one who put her credibility at issue. I thought that was a significant move because that could maybe have a trickle effect where all of these other accusers might have to be identified. And then it becomes a question if they want to continue their lawsuits or not once they're identified. What's your thoughts on that?
So I think there's two different issues here. There's one, the identity of a plaintiff in a civil lawsuit through discovery. And then there's also the identity of an individual on the caption of complaint that's ultimately public. Listen, I've litigated sexual abuse cases all over the country in both state and federal courts. I've never had a case where there's allegations of sexual abuse or sexual assault in which a judge required the caption of the complaint to identify the Jane Doe by name. Historically, what takes place in these cases is certainly Mr. Combs has a right through discovery, ultimately if the case goes to trial, to know his plaintiff in the case, the individual that's making allegations against him, to defend himself, to conduct discovery. And typically what takes place is there are protective orders that the court puts in place as far as documents that are produced through discovery, as far as deposition testimony, or otherwise, that still protects the identity of that Jane Doe, at least in the public light. What's taking place here is the caption of the complaint is going to be amended if that Jane Doe ultimately decides to continue with her lawsuit. So then the public gets access to who she is and her claims as well. So a separate distinction between what typically takes place in these cases, where certainly anyone that's accused has a right to defend themselves. That's our civil justice system. But it's usually done in a private way rather than my understanding of this order that's going to take place.
One more thing I wanted to ask you. I was really wrestling about this. If Sean Combs, what he might be telling his lawyers, what he might be perceiving this, let's assume everything is true. Let's assume every allegation is true, okay? Let's assume that. You know what I was thinking? If this really was a pervasive pattern and using repeated tactics, he may legitimately, again, assuming all of this is true, it's not. I mean, he's innocent until proven guilty. He's not been found liable. He's not been found guilty. But just assuming all this is true, one of the things that struck me was he might not even remember it. It became so common that he wouldn't remember this happened to this person, this happened to this person, this happened. It became so common that he may legitimately tell his attorneys, I don't remember anything about this. Is that something you've seen in your practice?
There's certainly the possibility, again, of these allegations are true. When someone's participated in so many events of abuse that sadly it becomes this addiction where they don't remember, like you stated, the individual events of abuse. And that's going to be very challenging for defending this case. You're going to have a plaintiff who this perhaps and probably was the most horrific experience that they've had in their life.
Right.
They're battling with PTSD, anxiety, fear. They, even with intoxicants in their system, will probably be able to recall everything from the paint color of the room to the temperature of the room. It's remarkable that survivors of abuse, let alone trauma, recall about their events. For Mr. Combs, if these allegations are true and he's participated in hundreds upon hundreds of these events, sadly, these plaintiffs or victims were just another number to him, another night. Now, again, those are allegations. His defense team, as well as Mr. Combs, will decide how they want to defend these cases. Perhaps he does recall an individual or event or these allegations, and he can defend it specifically. But if the allegations are true, I think it would be very difficult for him to individually defend 100+ lawsuits in the events that took place, spanning over decades.
Parker, thank you so much for coming on and explaining this. I mean, it's just another eerie development, another chilling tale. Again, an allegation, but just another chilling one nonetheless. Parker Steiner, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.
Let me go take care of this cold, man. Check this out. Nobody is coming to Puffy's defense. Nobody is helping him out in any kind of way whatsoever. So, with that being said, they gonna hang him out to dry, man. They ain't gonna kill him. People saying they gonna kill him in jail. They ain't gonna kill him. They want him to suffer, man. Puffy done pissed somebody off, and all the lawyers, all the big time wigs, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it if you're on the tape. We're covering all that. We want him to suffer. The big dogs pulling the strings want him to suffer, period. That's why nobody is helping him at all. Nobody's saying his name but us. All them people, ain't nobody saying his name. You notice They haven't even said no, but only person got called out one time was Jay-Z. Jay-Z, the only person got called out a little bit. So everybody else ain't been called out. Why? Because they lawyers taking care of stuff. Watch where the trial start. I'm gonna get on up out of here. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Shut that baby up. Peace out.